If you were a cult leader, what would your cult leader name be?
Something Latin, certainly.
Sure.
Um,
Could you be a bit more specific?
not something from Harry Potter. Nope, not that.
That's interesting. Could you expand on that for me?
I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that
Okay.
there's a lot of Latin in Harry Potter.
So it would not be a Harry Potter cult. That's good to know.
To be honest, I was thinking Severus is like a really cool name, but then I was like, I can't use Severus.
It's ruined. It's ruined forever. So if our guy is Snape.
I mean, I'd be Severus. Yeah, I'd be Severus.
Okay. What would your cult be about? Hypothetically.
Getting really good at mental math. We'd have a whole lot of like math-based iconography.
Okay.
We have like black robes with like, silver math symbols stitched into them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, if you can have a cult that's about like stars and stuff, then you can have a cult based about mental math.
Sure.
Yeah.
The cult has to attract people to it.
I'm sure we should find.
You understand that, right?
It's a very appealing premise. People love flashcards.
I just feel like you've created a cult of one, Matt.
I just know joining my cult.
Hello and welcome to Flanagan's Wake, a Doof Media podcast discovering the weird tattoo on the back of Mike Flanagan's neck. My name is Scott Daly and I am your host. And joining me as always, he spent a whole month with me learning my ways. Now I'm just going to put him in a nightgown and have him wander in the woods for a while. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going, Matt?
That's basically what graduate school is.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. Cool.
Nightgown, woods.
The nightgown part too. Okay.
Showing up at somebody's house and saying, Teach me.
Teach me, please. Does it only take a month?
It takes a month, yep.
Interesting, okay.
And you have to kill 4 people.
Oh, okay. Folks, we got a good one for you this week because we have reached the end of the Midnight Club. It is the final episode 10. Midnight. We learn in this episode where Julia Jane was during her missing month, and finally get conclusions on both the Wicked Hot and Witch as the Midnight Club members face their approaching death, but also celebrate their lives. Matt, episode 10, the finale of the Midnight Club. What'd you think?
I was very happy with this as the conclusion to this season of TV and, unfortunately to this show because it didn't continue. I think, I was so anxious is maybe too strong a word, but concerned because I knew that there had been a plan for this show to continue. And so I was like, how are we going to wrap up a show where you want to leave open the possibility of continuation, but also you have to give a satisfying resolution? And I thought this did a great job. I felt like we gave a sense of closure and meaning to all these different characters in really quite a tight episode.
Mm-hmm.
And left me feeling like, oh yeah, that feels concluded. I'm sure there are threads that could be carried forward. Obviously,
yeah.
Any character who is there, right, could continue forward. But and I felt like, hey, this is a great stopping point. I could just we back the camera away and fade out, and it's over, and I feel satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two biggest dangling threads are our big 11th hour reveal of Dr. Georgina Stanton and her wig and her Paragon symbol on the back of her neck. And then, of course, we also learn at the very last minute that the two old people that both Ilanka and Kevin have been seeing are the builder of this house and his wife. We don't really learn anything else more about that. And those are definitely things that just live out there forever now, because the show doesn't end. But I think you're right that those two things are not like the driving force of the episode. They are just things that are thrown at the very end to kind of do a little, tantalizing cliffhanger towards a second season that will never be. And the majority of the episode is, as you said, is wrapping up characters, is wrapping up plot lines, is wrapping up the show, as it turns out, even if it was not necessarily planned. And I think I agree with you from that perspective. This mostly works. It's not my favorite episode of the show, but I think there's a lot of I cried like 3 times watching this episode, and so it's very good. I think we should say that we got to do like a pretty unique thing here, Matt, where you and I were together last weekend. We try to meet up at least once a year. We got to meet up last weekend, and we did the thing that we had never done in the history of this podcast, which is we watched The Thing together. We were in the same room watching The Thing. And I thought that was kind of a pretty cool experience. I think, for those like wanting a Matt Freeman live reaction, people have been asking for that since we've been doing podcasting. I got to tell you folks, it's mostly just him sitting silently, watching the show.
Yeah. I don't know what about me makes people think that I'm going to be much more emotive when I'm watching something. But it was great. Yeah. We that was fun watching it together with you, because we got to share little comments to each other. So.
Yeah, and you got to see what parts that really set you off and made you laugh. I enjoyed that, and of course your bewildered what at the very end of the episode. I enjoyed that as well.
I believe what I said at the time was that I was going to resurrect my coinage of Goosebumpsian to refer to the ending, where it's much like the title card of the show. It's a sort of self-consciously corny retro story choice to say, the literal violin sting as we show she takes off the wig and we see the thing and that's it. And you're like, that's kind of funny, but and I don't know what we're going to do with that, but
and just to say it here at the top for those that maybe haven't listened to previous episodes or forgot, we do know where that is leading. Mike Flanagan did, after the show was canceled, write a big long Tumblr post about all his plans for season 2. That post does include an explanation for what's going on with Dr. Stanton. We're not going to be talking about it on this episode. We'll loop back around to that next week. I've told Matt he's not allowed to read that post yet, and I hope, Matt, that you've listened.
I have not read the post.
Cool. So yeah, we will talk about all that stuff next week, as we get in details of what the future of the show could have been. This week, we're going to talk about this episode in particular, and what the show was and how the show ended, which I think we're in general agreement. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. Before we get into the details, Matt, we do have one quick announcement. I'm going to let you do this one because this is your baby.
Yeah, so for the last couple months over on the Patreon, I've been writing weekly installments of a serialized novel with some fun choose your own adventure component to it for the patrons to vote on what choice the character is going to make at the end of every chapter from a list that I provide. We're about, I think, 30,000 words into it at this point, and wow. I've been having just so much fun doing this. And I'm just mentioning that I wrapped up part 1 this week with a great shocking twist or cliffhanger or something. I don't know. What's the word? Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the main character took off a wig and there was a weird tattoo on the back of his neck, and then end of part 1.
Completely original. No. So yeah. So, I mean, I'm immediately starting part 2. It's just, it felt like a good time. Felt like a good sort of natural break point to remind / mention that this is ongoing on the Patreon, and be a good time to catch up now, because there's quite a bit of backlog if you just want to dig in.
Yeah, I am ridiculously biased, of course, but I think this is pretty great. I really enjoyed how you wrapped up the first part. And
thanks.
Looking forward to more. So yeah, that's completely free to read over on our Patreon, patreon.com/doofmedia. If you want to support in the choose your own adventure portion of the thing, you want to be one of the people that votes for where the story goes each week, you do have to be a subscribing member of the Patreon, but anyone can read the story for free over there.
That's right.
Patreon.com/doofmedia. Check it out.
Yep.
It's been a lot of fun. Okay. Episode 10, Midnight. This episode was written for television by Mike Flanagan and Leah Fong. It was directed by Morgan Beggs. This is the first time we've said this name on this show. Morgan was a first assistant director on The Haunting of Bly Manor, on Midnight Mass, and will also be again on The Fall of the House of Usher. So this is another example of kind of the Mike Flanagan system of bringing people in, elevating them, and letting them try and do new things. I think this is like in the idealized version of Hollywood, this is like how it's supposed to work, right? I think in the idealized version of any kind of career or vocation, right, is the idea of that the younger people come in, they work with people with a lot of experience, they learn from that person, and then that person provides them with the opportunity to expand their skill set, to try something new, to challenge themselves. It doesn't quite work that way in the real world as much anymore. It also is harder and harder to do that in this business. But I think it's cool that I think again and again and again, we see that in Mike Flanagan and his team giving the opportunities to do stuff like that.
Yes, I agree. That is cool.
This is, by the way, like why writers' rooms are great, even though it seems like television is slowly and unfortunately moving away from the concept of writer's room. It's not just because a bunch of people working together to break a story ultimately makes a better story, which is true. But it's also because like the entire idea of learning how to run a show can happen in those writers' rooms, right? You get in there with a head writer / showrunner. He or she teaches you how to run a show. And then you get to take that knowledge and go try it for yourself. If you don't have a room, if you don't have people collaborating on this stuff, it affords less opportunities to do that. And that means less good things out there. So,
yep. Got to have context for all that tacit knowledge transfer.
Yeah. I am very pro writers' rooms. They sound incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got distracted. This episode was edited by Lucy Donaldson and Jason Hellman, and its director of photography is a woman named Lindsay George, which is another new name for us, Matt. This is a woman that I don't think we've seen DP any of Mike's projects. I'm not even sure if she will do so again in the future. It's always good to see a new name, a new face. Also, like I feel like cinematography is stereotypically and traditionally a field dominated by men, so I think it's cool to see a woman being the director of photography here. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good looking episode. Good lenses, good lighting.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is a very pretty episode.
Yep. All right, Matt, where do you want to begin with Midnight? I know where I want to begin because I kind of want to get one of my big negative things out of the way. So is it okay with you if we start with the opening of the episode?
I think that's a reasonable place to start.
We've already made a couple jokes about it, but the episode opens on Julia Jane sneaking out of the house, ultimately going to hunt down Aseso, played by Katie Parker, and glean some knowledge from her. And this is Matt, my least favorite part of the episode is the stuff with Aseso. What did you think? What did you think of this scene?
It's interesting. I mean, I didn't have this like reaction that you had here, but it's also just not a thing that I'm particularly invested in because as we've talked about, we in our language and sort of Mike Flanagan's language, there's an A story, a B story, and what we call the C story, which is all of the cult stuff and the magic stuff. And this is the C story. And I understand why for that sense of closure that we're after, we do want to sort of have this reveal, this dramatic full opening the kimono moment of this is what really happened. This is the ground truth that you've been wondering about this whole time. And as we talked about, we just weren't that invested in that through line, and so we weren't actually wondering that much about it. And so it's not really all that satisfying. It does answer questions that we've had. I mean, we have talked about these questions, and it does answer those questions, but it's just not it's not our priority, right? Our priority is the characters.
I mean, ultimately, I don't care about the questions, and therefore I don't care about the answers, is kind of how I feel. Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is tying off of a loose thread. We had this story told in the very first episode that Ilanka told about Julia Jane and her mysterious month-long disappearance, and she came back and she was suddenly cured, and what happened and where was she and all this stuff. And this is the answer. She found Aseso. Aseso taught her in the ways of the Paragon. So then a month later, she came back to Brightcliff cured. Or actually, here's one of my problems with it. I don't care about the answers to the questions, but this section did cause me to have more questions. Where and just tell me to shut up here if I'm being ridiculous, but like, okay, so she goes. Seiso is going to teach her all the secrets of the goddesses and the rituals and all these things. So let's say over the course of the month she stays there, she teaches them to her. What does Julia Jane think happened? Right? So either they did a ritual at Seiso's house and it cured her, or she trained with her for a month and then went back to Bright Cliff, did the ritual at Bright Cliff, and it cured her there. The show kind of tells us that this is bullshit, right? That it didn't cure her, that the same thing that happened to Sandra happened to Julia Jane. And we have no reason to deny the truth of that for the show. It seems like all this cult ritual stuff is indeed just truly not how anything actually works. But I'm just a little confused, like what Julia thinks happened. Because like, if this is like blood ritual shit, like we've been led to believe, like, and we know Julia believes because she's willing to sacrifice 4 people to do it again as an adult. Did they kill people in order for her to be cured the first time? Like what happened? Like it's weird that it answers the question, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I think I assumed that they did the ritual, and it did cure her
At Bright Cliff.
Not necessarily at Bright. So I think I've changed my mind about this, because I think at first I was thinking that they did the ritual at Bright Cliff. Well, no. They probably did the ritual at Bright Cliff. The reason being that
it has to be.
It has to be the location, the ley lines, whatever. That's their belief, is that they have to do it at Bright Cliff. So I think they probably snuck in just like they did in, the last episode. And that's, they essentially did what we're doing now.
So did they like sneak in, do the ritual, murder 4 people, sneak 4 bodies out so nobody noticed? And then Julia's like, hey, I'm back.
Yes. I mean, I do wonder how involved in the situation Stanton is, because this is a big out the show has given itself by at the last minute revealing that Stanton has the tattoo. You realize, like, oh, so Stanton either formerly was or secretly still is a partisan of the Seiso cult. And so maybe she was involved in that too, and maybe there was a cover up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's easy to believe there'd be a cover up, because like if you see Stanton as being someone who sees herself as a kind of steward of this place, then she would even be motivated to cover it up if it happened.
Sure.
I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Here's the thing where I struggle with is like I don't actually care, because it doesn't matter. Like for me, the important part of the scene is the emotional resonance part of it, where we are kind of seeing Julia Jane, like the scene very drastically goes from this desperate, scared little girl to the Samantha Sloyan version of the character, who is basically in the scene when we jump back to the future is basically like a supervillain. Like she literally is doing the, what's it gonna be, Doc? You gonna catch me or you're gonna save? Like it's literally like a supervillain thing, right? So like I think one of the emotional reasons for the section is to show that transition and to also compare young Julia very specifically to young Ilanka, and showing the idea of how a very smart, very intelligent person can, through their desperation, be hoodwinked or manipulated or tricked into ultimately doing bad things and becoming a bad person at the end of their life.
Yeah.
And that all worked on me perfectly. It's just all this, like the detail of it to me was like, oh, okay. Like even, and I know this is stupid, but even the part where Seiso's like, and we're gonna have to figure out your story. So it's just like oddly specific. We're gonna dress you in a nightgown, and then you're gonna walk through the forest, and then show up back at the house. But then in Ilanka's story, when she said she showed up after a month, and they asked her where she was, and she said, I never left the house. And so I'm like, what? Why'd you say that if we went through all this trouble to make it look like you were outside for a long time?
I don't know, man. I mean, that line to me felt just more like, hey, we need an explicit callback to remind people of what
Right.
happened
Exactly.
10
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which,
Well,
I mean, it definitely was true for me because,
yeah.
I mean, I've obviously been thinking about the show more than the
I mean,
average person who watches the show, but I still was like, oh, yeah, the nightgown. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of what this feels like to me, a lot of the scene outside of the emotional stuff that we just talked about is trying to like close loopholes so stupid podcasters like me can't go, well, what about the nightgown scene? But somehow, even via closing that loophole, I'm still sitting here in front of a microphone saying, well, what about the nightgown? So yeah, I mean, ultimately this doesn't matter. I don't think this hurts me, but I the scene brought like, but via trying to answer these questions, it brought up more questions for me,
mhm.
even if they didn't matter. And like that's the other problem is because we know like the ultimate conclusion of this show is that none of this stuff is true. It didn't really happen. It's not real. There's nothing special here. Well, I mean, not exactly true, but this version of it, right? This cult magic cure version of it is bullshit. And so I don't really care what Aseso has to say about Pythagorean education, right? I mean, like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the show has, I think, very much left open the idea that their particular understanding of what's going on is incorrect, but we can't actually fully write it off because Ilanka and Kevin are being possessed by ghosts, and the statue did get fixed. So perhaps,
Yeah,
perhaps Julia Jane is not entirely wrong. It's I mean, I'm trying to decide in real time here whether it's possible that she's just actually right, and that it is true that if you do a dark ritual in the basement, then you can cure your disease. It's just an incredibly evil thing to do, and and like Stanton being the steward of the place could be like it's necessary for there to be a protector because otherwise people would exploit this, this magical thing. Look, I know. Look, you and I are both very biased toward this interpretation of no, there's no magic. It's like I like that. It appeals to me, but I think the show is keeping its options open because they don't necessarily want to conclude on that definitively yet.
it's fair. Yeah, I think it has, but I think you're also correct that it's not completely impossible. I think to me, the way the show spoke to me the most is that the repaired statue was the one true supernatural thing happening. Now we can talk about the old lady and the old man and what that means, but that's not answered by the show. So we really can't within the context of the show as it is presented to us, we can't really definitively conclude on that. But I like that being the one bit of something supernatural and something more. But no, you're not wrong. I mean, I think there's interpretations and under that idea, I do like this. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when Ilanka tells her story, when she tells the end of Witch, there is, I think, a very specific comparison to be made here with Ilanka sacrifices her life to save someone else, whereas Julia Jane's method of doing thing was to sacrifice other people's life to save hers. And I think that is an intentional inversion of that idea. And so that inversion can exist whether or not there's magic healing powers in the basement or not, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of whether that is true, Ilanka has learned that is not the correct path, which I think is what matters.
And I think that's where the show really works for me is everything you just said landed for me emotionally. The arc of Ilanka, set aside whether we're confused about the details of what Julia Jane was doing when, the arc of Ilanka going from someone who is very much like Julia Jane, trying to steal more life, it has now become someone who only wishes she could give her life to someone else, and she actually can't. Yep. But she does it in a story. Like she's expressing, I wish that this is the thing that I could have done. And I think one thing, I mean, again, this is kind of an unusual episode, so I think we are going to jump around a lot. But on the topic of Ilanka and her story, I really like the fact that she started that story a few episodes ago with a certain idea in mind of where she was going with it, right? Of like, I'm gonna save everyone. We're gonna do a ritual. We're gonna find magic. We're gonna use magic to help ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then turns out she has a change of heart midway through telling the story, and so it ends this way instead of whatever way she originally had planned.
Yeah, and the idea that that what she is doing, what she is giving her life is to save the Scotty character, who's of course played by Anya, is this very resonant idea throughout the entire show that these stories are the way our characters become eternal and the way they help each other become eternal. So yes, Ilanka cannot sacrifice her life to save Anya. Anya is gone. But by crafting a story in which Anya gets to live, or the characterized version of Anya gets to live, she has, in a sense, made Anya eternal. Like, kept her alive, kept her memory alive, kept who she was alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think importantly, gosh, we're jumping all over the place, but I love the way that story ends, because the story makes something explicit that I think you and I talked about very early in the show, which is like, are the characters aware that in the stories they're telling that they're played by themselves or other people, right? And I think the very end of this episode makes that explicit, that yes, they know when the in-story version of Cherie is talking about Scotty. She's describing Scotty as if she was Anya. And then, of course, there's the very funny part where Amesh says, and also these two people are back. And then Sandra's character from her story comes back. So, yes, everyone in the show is fully aware that they are putting themselves and each other as characters in their story, which I think makes perfect sense, because this is not only how they're processing what's happening to them, but this is how they are making themselves and the people they love eternal, last forever through story.
I like that. I just wanted to mention before we move on from that point that I actually really enjoyed the idea that in this sort of fourth wall break, we drag in the other characters from the older stories, because, it's played as a joke. It's not serious, but it does give you this feeling of closure to this season of TV, where it's like, we're bringing in all these characters that we fell in love with. And it's like, those characters are distinct from the Midnight Club characters. Those are the parenthetical nested characters, and it's like, oh, them again, and you were there, and it's a good feeling of wrapping it all up, and it gives you a warm feeling. It's just clever.
And this idea at the beginning of when Amesh is talking about empty chairs around the table and how he doesn't like that, like those people might be gone, but they still exist within the stories, and they can come back. Like Sandra has left and gone off on her own, but she comes back. It's really beautiful. It's kind of a ritual, to be honest with you. Like the end of the scene has all of them like putting their important knickknacks for their individual characters down at the grave of Ilanka and Ben, Ilanka and Kevin. Ben's the character in the story, and it's like their important symbolic thing. It is the ritual that they do for Anya in the basement, except it's not a ritual of magic to save lives. It's a ritual of remembrance. It's a ritual of honoring the dead. It's a ritual of remembering them and showing how important they were to you and you were to them. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I felt the ritual of that in that moment.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good ending thesis statement for all the different stories that we told this season.
Yeah. Speaking of which, where would you like to go from here? Let's leave silly Julia Jane behind. But by the way, as Samantha Sloyan gets into that elevator, the smile she gives Ilanka as she goes up, she feels no remorse for tricking her, for almost killing her, for any of it. She just has this beaming smile as the elevator lifts up. God,
I loved it.
Yeah,
it made me so happy.
Yeah. Like
Good
I said,
for her.
Super villain.
Living her best life. Yeah. No, it's great. Let's see. I'm my notes are also more non-linear this week because we wrap up two different stories, and we start off in a flashback, like it's just an unusual episode.
Yeah, it is. I will say I do appreciate that the finale, while it is a little unusual, still basically held fast to the structure of the show, which is we're going to have these kids get together and tell stories to each other. Like you'd think there'd be in the finale episode to stay away from the B stories and just it be all A plot. And I appreciate that the show does not do that.
Right. I also felt that the conclusions to the two stories that we got this week were both very strong, despite you have to cram two stories into one episode. It's like it didn't feel crammed at all. Actually, it felt like, oh, that was a really satisfying ending to both of these. And we'll talk. I feel like we basically talked about Alanka's story just now, and we'll talk about Kevin's in a second. One thing I just have some scattered notes about the family day and how that was a nice story opportunity because it allows us to like very efficiently tie up a bunch of loose ends.
Yeah, we get for every character.
Right. So we can just go through it. Amesh's parents are going to make it back before he dies, probably, because the show doesn't go on. We'll just assume that happened.
Sure.
And whatever Mike Flanagan said in his Tumblr post, death of the author.
Wow, I can't believe you just killed Mike Flanagan before the end of the show. That's rude.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Sherry's simple background arc is resolved with her realizing that this is her family and that these are her loved ones, and she's going to spend time with them because her biological family doesn't appreciate her, so fuck them. Spence's mom shows up, and again, it's like nothing needs to be said. She just shows up. She gives him a hug. Perfect.
And we get the funniest line in the entire show out of this moment, which is it gets awarded to Cherie, seeing Spence's mom and dad and saying, he's my fiance, actually, we're engaged.
It's my friend Cherie.
The best line.
It's just awesome.
It is because it's in keeping with her character.
And I'm not
It's perfectly
just
timed.
friend,
It's delivered
his fiance.
so well.
We're engaged.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm skipping someone, but I was going to go to, Alanka in a very, so, we talked about how her story is this metaphorical sign of closure, but this is just a very literal sign of her change. Her character change is when her dad comes, she's like, I want to discuss what's the word for this?
The pre-need.
Is that, I've never heard this phrase. I mean, is this like an advance directive, basically? Like what? Anyway, I'm springing this question on you, but basically, it's a very material and concrete sign of just like I've accepted this is happening, and so we're gonna deal with this now, and it's not gonna be pleasant, but we're gonna do it.
And one thing I really appreciate about that scene, Matt Badell, I think, acts the shit out of it, but like we position this thing where this has been Alanka the whole show, right? I think she got the pre-need in episode 2 and just like, yeah, okay. And she filed it away because episode 2, Alanka was like, I don't need that. It's not even a pre-need. It's a not need. Good joke. Me nailed it. And then by the end of the show, we've gotten to the point where she is ready to accept that. And I love the show has the Tom character, her father, not there yet, right? Like he is still like, as she starts going down this thing, he's like, Alanka, I don't think we need to talk about that yet. And as she reads the beautiful poem, he's like, no, like we don't need to talk about this yet. It's not time for it yet. And just positioning Alanka in the place where she is the one now pushing for the things that she's now ready for really helps accentuate in my mind how convicted she is in this now, that she has fully come to this, that even when Tim is pushing back against her and being like, no, it's not time for this yet, Alanka, it's not. She's like, no, it is. It is. I think that's very cleverly done as just a way of really accentuating that change, I think. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I agree. So her, Kevin gets his resolution, which is not necessarily, it's a little bit more expanded than just a simple moment. It's the idea that he does break up with Catherine,
Mhm.
and that's what he needed to do. That's kind of the point of the story that he's been telling, or he needed to tell that story so that he could get to the point where he's able to do that.
Yeah, but, and maybe I'll hold that but for when we actually get into the Wicked Heart, because I think there's a lot to say there about how Kevin feels as he ends that story versus how Kevin feels as we leave the whole show behind, because I think there's a difference there for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's a case to be made that, Kevin is the main character of this episode, because he tells that story, and we see the breakup scene, and we're due to the structure of the show, we have to do our character growth sort of skipping around. Not every character can get a moment of growth every episode. They can get a moment where we kind of are reminded of what's going on with them, but that's not the same thing as a moment of growth and change. And so I think we did a lot of skipping stones with Kevin's story across the show, and now we had to do 2 or 3 important moments of growth for him in this episode. That's why I say he's the main character. It's like, I feel like Ilanka kind of learned her lesson last episode. End of last. Anyway, I'm like nitpicking pointlessly. We can talk about Kevin's story now if you want. I'm probably forgetting someone.
As long you forgot about Sandra, but that's because she's not here. This is her Sandra leaves episode, so we have that bit. I mean, I want to go back to each one of these moments eventually because I think there's detail in there that's worth diving into. But yeah, if we want to move on to Kevin now, I'm fine.
Whichever, yeah. I mean, I also didn't bring up Natsuki, but that's partly because I don't remember exactly what. I know that there was a moment where we were paying attention to her, but now I'm blanking on what happened.
I mean, the Natsuki moment is kind of wrapped around the Amesh moment, that she is there. Like the idea that she gets to meet his parents. But so okay, since we're talking about this now, let's talk about Amesh and Natsuki, because I think we get 2 separate moments in this story. We get a very happy one and we get a very sad one, because the opening part of this is Amesh's. Natsuki wakes up in bed and Amesh is over by a table and he's trying to pick up a pen and he's struggling with his motor skills. And we have this beautiful scene, this wonderful scene where he is sitting on the bed, kind of reckoning with the idea that his vision in one of his eyes is starting to go too, and that's one of the signs that things are progressing rapidly with his cancer, that he does not have very long to live. And it's this horrible, tragic moment. I love how it's shot. We have the way this is shot is we have Amesh in front of the frame in profile, and behind him, kind of out of focus, is Natsuki reacting to the things he's saying as he talks about this shape, this dark shape that he's been seeing out of the corner of his eye, which reminds him of what Tristan talked about, which reminds him what Anya talked about, which is all part and parcel of saying that Amesh is very aware that his time is coming soon, very soon. And we get this beautiful moment where Natsuki is there for him and she just goes, okay, we can deal with this. And I love the moment where he just looks at her and he just goes, fuck. And she just goes, yeah. And then they just hug. And I think the scene closes on them, forehead to forehead. You see tears dripping down her eyes. You see, it's so sad. It's so sad. It's one of the 4 moments in this episode I cried. But it's also this is what people are for, right? Like he's going through this thing, but he doesn't have to go through it alone. She's there for him and she understands, and she's sad too, but they're together. And then we get to move from this very sad, very, very upsetting moment to the happiness moment, to the good news that his parents have dealt with their customs issue. They're coming. They'll be here soon. As you said, we don't know if it's going to be soon enough or tragically not in time, but because there is no episode after this one, we just get to say that they arrive in time, and Natsuki gets to meet them and he gets to see them again. And before Amesh dies, he's going to get to do those things. So that's this wonderful moment. I really like the little thing from Natsuki's mom who says in Japanese, "You're right, he is cute when he smiles." It's this really, really adorable moment of these are not kids that are about to die. These are just 2 families interacting with each other. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful and it's happy.
Yes, I agree. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So it's just within the same episode, you know, like
Yeah.
the reality of their situation, the frank, again, to go back to that Amesh scene, I know we talked about it already, but like, it's just so frank and honest.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is it. It's coming. There's no stopping it. And it doesn't hold back. It doesn't try to pretty it up in any way. It's just like, this sucks. It's just as simple as fuck.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's in many regards, that's the show operating at its best, is when it is just like this unadorned sadness and just looking directly at the situation. I think that's we haven't talked about this in a while because I think it would have been repetitive if we had talked about it over and over for 10 episodes. But I'll bring up a thing we talked about at the beginning, which is like, it's a very high difficulty thing to do to try to make a TV show, an entertaining TV show about kids dying in a hospice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do you do that in a way that doesn't feel exploitative on the one hand, or not taking it seriously, or then like maudlin and just excessively depressing on the other hand, to the point where nobody wants to watch it. And the whole that, like, I think the show actually, like now that we've seen the whole thing, and this is maybe something we talk about more next week when we do the overview episode, but it does a remarkable job of balancing these tonal elements, these different story elements. You know, we complain about not liking the C plot very much, but I think it serves a function. I think it serves like a tonal function and like a narrative balance function, because it's like, look, you can't actually just pound us with the reality of this for 10 hours. No one would watch that, right?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that like that is reality. That is the way people's lives are. It's just we titrate it, and so those moments, they're so precious because they're so raw and real and grounded, and then they kind of have to be packaged, if you will, amid more palatable story elements, more entertaining story elements. Because I'm repeating myself, but otherwise, like, it would just be we'd just be crying the whole time we're talking.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think this episode, you know, we're getting kind of meta, which is fine. I think in a finale, you tend to get meta because you're seeing like, okay, that's how everything came together.
Yeah.
And that kind of illuminates what the structure was the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't necessarily know what we were doing until we see where we ended up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I also think just like it's just true of life as well, that like even for people that are going through this horribly sad, tragic thing, their entire life is not that. They still laugh, they still play, they still, you know, like it's a mixture of everything. Like the fact that you are dying does not rule every second of every part of your thought. And so like, if it were a show that was just that, I don't think it would function as a show, as a story, but I also don't think it would be believable as people, because people are more than just the saddest thing about them. So
yeah,
I think I agree with you that the degree of difficulty here is absurd, actually. And small quibbles aside, like I think this is a successful show that's actually very good, in my estimation at the end of the day. So
totally.
Yeah,
and I love all these characters. That's another comment. Just to while we're doing this thing where we're going through all the characters and we're kind of saying how we wrap up with them. I really love all these characters. Yeah. I'm invested in them. I care about them. I think that if you told me there was going to be a season 2, I would be so excited. You know, to see like, okay, you know, I just told you that I felt that things were resolved. But that doesn't mean I don't want to see where things are going to go next for these kids.
Well, spoiler.
They're
going to die.
Well, I know, but like,
yeah. No, I know what you mean though, and I agree. Like I am so deeply, I am so deeply attached to every single one of these kids, and to all the characters around them as well. Like, we talked about the Spence moment with his mother that was deeply moving, but I also liked the little bit in there where Mark, the nurse practitioner, walks out by the background, and he and Spence have this seconds long look at each other of acknowledgement and a silent thank you for helping him get to this point where he could do this thing. And this is television to me, Matt. This is what I love about TV so much. This is, I think, a thing that TV can do that movies cannot do, just by the breadth of the time with these characters and with their stories, that you grow so attached to them that you can have moments like these in a finale that is just playing off of the fact that we care about these people so much that we just want to see them have some semblance of happiness. Like even that moment of when Spence first sees his mom and Cherie says, "Well, look what you did, friend." Like that that is a line that works because we care about these people so much, and we see like Cherie, that's the perfect response for her to have to that. Like, look what you did. You did this. You made this happen. Look at this thing. Look at this broken thing that is repaired now because of you. I wonder if that could, I'm just now realizing that the statue magically being repaired is not only this wonderful moment of realization for Alanka, but perhaps an overarching motif of this entire episode of broken things being repaired, but not in the way we think they are, because obviously, like, people aren't magically cured. It's like the disease does not go away, but these broken relationships, these things that are messed up, are being fixed by the power of this place and these people.
Yeah. There's grace. It's just not the grace you were asking for.
Yep, that's well said. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Who do you want to talk about now?
It's just interesting. I was just looking over my notes and realized that like half of my notes are about Kevin, which I didn't even realize that when I said what I said a minute ago about him being the main character. It's just, I think there's a lot both inside and outside of his story. And I think the natural thing to say, we're going through all the characters and saying like, what were their big moments? And, Kevin's big moment is breaking up with his girlfriend, which is, again, I mean, much like that moment between Amesh and Natsuki, it's a very grounded, like painful, like sort of bittersweet human, just moment with, like, I don't know, everybody's been through a breakup. There's nothing, dignified about it. It's just a thing that you have to get through. And the performances were fantastic.
Yes,
what this says about Kevin's character and like our ability to empathize with what this character is going through in this moment it really landed for me. And how that connects to the story that he's telling really landed for me. Mm-hmm. That just all worked on me so well. So, I mean, I'd like to pivot to talking about that.
Let's do it. I agree with everything you said. I like that this occurs on that bench. There's like one of the first visions we get of Brightcliff, and then Alanka's first moment to meet Kevin happens on this bench as he sits there looking out over the ocean. And this is where this moment happens. And it is sad, but like in a beautiful way where you're proud of Kevin for being honest. You have to know that. I want to talk about The Wicked Heart with you and how it ends. There's a lot going on here, but the thing that is most interesting to me that maybe we can start and then move on to other things is the way Kevin frames this story as Dusty, the character that he's playing in this story, hurts the people he loves, and he needs to be isolated from them, removed from them, broken off with them, because all he does is hurt the people that he loves. Which is an interesting way of framing the fact that he just broke up with Catherine, right? Like one could argue, and I think this is ultimately where Kevin gets to, is that he was a person that was so endlessly interested in like not hurting the people around him that he kept something going at the minimization of his own wants and needs. But which I think is true. But I think per the story, he breaks up with Catherine because he doesn't want to hurt her.
Me too.
Like he wants like he knows he's dying soon, and he's like pushing her away a little bit. Like I think here's what I think. I don't know if you agree with me. I think the Kevin that breaks up with Catherine has a different point of view on this whole thing than the Kevin that ends up kissing Alanka at the end of the episode. Like I think if you asked Kevin in the moment that he was breaking up with Catherine, I don't think he would necessarily say, "I'm doing this because I'm actually in love with Alanka." I think he would have a different explanation for that. And it is her story, and it is also her pushing him on the end of his story that gets him to a place of where he says, like, just because I'm dying is just a really stupid reason not to live.
So I think I would say there's maybe a progression that we're witnessing in stages. And I'll try to support this. I mean, definitely the case that you just made is compelling. But we go from the Kevin we knew at the beginning of the show where he literally was like, oh yeah, I just ran a quick mile, to his mom on the phone, I believe. Yes. And his friends are like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're just lying to protect their feelings, to make them believe that you're doing better than you are because you don't want them to suffer thinking that you're not doing well. And that was who we met him as this guy who was sort of shouldering this huge burden of keeping up a brave face and pretending everything is fine. And, essentially pretending that he's not actually going to die. Not saying it in so many words, but it's almost like, no, I'm fine. I'm great. I'm going for a run.
Yeah, but and I agree with you. Just to clarify, like, that is not about him lying to himself about his situation. It is him lying to others about his situation. Yes. And I think the justification for that in his mind is it doesn't matter because I'm going to die anyway. Like, what does it matter if I lie to these people? Like, I think he says, remember when Alanka first kisses him, he says, it doesn't matter. We're already gone.
Yeah.
And I think the dying is a bad excuse not to live is an inverse of, is a flip, a binary flip from what does it matter? We're already gone.
I think it's a binary flip, but I think we're kind of watching the flip like grind its way
Sure.
into place over the course of the episode. Because, okay, so again, I'm kind of working through this in real time with you, but the idea that he breaks up with Catherine, it's like, well, he could just wait that out and then he would just die. And then, yeah, she'd be hurt. But I think he's like, look, I want to do this in a way where it's like, yeah, I'm going to hurt her, but I have to just accept that I'm going to hurt her and then do it in a way where I'm taking ownership of the necessity of this. And sure. That's different from him just continuing to pretend. Like the best thing for Catherine is if I just continue to pretend that I'm fine and continue to pretend that we're in love. And, because, okay, this might be my own sort of kind of projection of the state of things with Kevin, but maybe he's thinking like breaking up with her and then dying would be way more painful than just dying. Because if I just die and we have, then at least she gets to have this story that she tells herself where she had this boyfriend that she was madly in love with and who was madly in love with her. And then he died tragically. And that's the story. It's a very simple story. There's almost a comfort to the nature of that story. Mm-hmm. But he part of his realization, part of his growth is saying, that's not honest. I can't let that be the way my life ends, is pretending and lying and sustaining this delusion for this other person's sake when it's really just causing me so much suffering. And so he says, we're gonna end this now. And so now the story is a little more complicated for her. I had this guy who I thought was great, and he was dying, and he broke up with me before the end of his life. And that's a little more complicated for a person to metabolize. And so I think that is a sign of his, being a little bit more selfish in a way that is necessary and actually positive because it's more honest.
I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I cannot get over the fact that in his story version of himself, he locks himself into a windowless room to spend the rest of his life locked away from all people.
Yeah.
And as if like, I mean, he did this thing. I think part of this is him is, as you said, is him like working through the fact that he did this thing. It was very difficult for him to be honest, but he did hurt her. And he's still reeling from the fact that he hurts her, and he's afraid of hurting Alanka too. He's afraid of hurting everyone, and so his punishment for the things that he did is that he doesn't get to be with anyone. I think this is what he's going through when he does that, like that he is punishing Dusty, punishing himself by saying that these things that I did, I deserve to be punished for them.
Yeah. So I think a good articulation of the stages that we're talking that I'm trying to kind of sketch out is like stage 1 is I'm going to pretend that I'm fine so that I won't hurt anyone's feelings up until the exact moment when I die, and then yes, their feelings will be hurt. Then stage 2 is saying, all right, that's not the way I want to do this. That doesn't feel true to myself. I'm going to cut all ties so that everyone will be alienated from me. That way, when I die, they will be less hurt because they're not connected to me anymore. And then the third stage is Alanka saying, hey, we all hurt the people we love because we're connected to each other. We're all connected to each other, and that's as it should be. And, you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders and be this, honorable guy. You could just be a person. I don't know. I love this arc. Maybe that's one of the reasons I want to talk about it, is because I just find it relatable in a way to have the attitude. It's like I think it's a very common young man attitude of just feeling like my existence is a burden and it's my duty to minimize that burden on other people.
Sure.
And that's like very common and almost lauded as like that's how you should be. And there's definitely something to be said for duty. Like I'm pro duty, actually. I think duty is actually a place where human beings get meaning from. Duty gets a bad rap, but duty can go too far to the point where you've got nothing except duty, and you've subjugated your whole identity to duty, which is what Kevin is doing.
Yeah. And
at the end realizes I gotta live a little bit. I gotta be myself. I gotta be honest.
I like this a lot. I also like how this is layered on the idea of like a kind of generational trauma that is laid at Kevin's feet via his mom, via his grandfather before them. This idea that that he is broken inside somehow. That there's something wrong with him that was handed down to him through his family line, and he harbors a lot of guilt for that. Like the pressure he experiences from his mother, but also this feeling of who he is fundamentally flawed in some way because of that. I think that's really interesting as well. That this all layers on top of that. Like in the expression of, I think it is interesting and worth talking about that in the expression of the conclusion of this story is more focused on his relationship with Catherine and his relationship with Alanka. It is less focused on his relationship with his mother. Although I think one good thing that the show does is that is still very much there. It's present. We get to see through the creepy crawling on walls version of his mother that this is part of some feeling he feels of the pressure that he gets from his mom to be. You talked about duty, like the duty of being a good son, the duty of being the man of the house, because something happened with his father that we never really get to see. The duty of being that person, and how that pressure forces him to do stuff he doesn't really want to do, but feels like he has to do. And he translates that, of course, to murder, because he feels like he just hurts people. He hurts all the people around him. It's very well done. It's very well executed. It's probably ultimately one of my favorite of the B plot of the show because we get so much time with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like these ideas and I like the execution of them. So,
Mhm.
And I like the ending. I mean, it's fun. It's a kind of a fun thing you can do when you have a story like this, where you've got an inner story and then framing story, because the ending of The Wicked Heart is bleak and a downer, right? It's kind of great because he wins in the sense that he, defeats the evil, but he ends up in a padded cell and he's begging for his music because he still hears the voices. And it's like, yeah, he's not free of this thing that in this story within a story, he is still cursed. And in fact, he is ongoingly going to be like the vessel who just suffers to protect everyone else, locked away, isolated with his demons.
Yeah.
Great shit. Love it. But then we're able to step outside of that and say, and have Ilanka say, I didn't like that ending.
I like that.
I didn't like that ending because I don't think the character deserved that. I think the character deserves to be happy because she knows that it's Kevin talking about himself.
Yeah.
And she is able to make that overture to him, and that is successful. And that kind of, so we kind of get both endings. Like we kind of get the downer, thriller ending, and then we also get the happy, growth and change ending.
Yeah, totally. It is a rough ending. It's very sad. Like, despite Dusty being a mass murderer, you're like, I don't want that for him. I mean, it like sins of our parents, right? Like this, how do we handle that? And I think in Kevin's mind, he's like, yeah, I felt this pressure from my mom, but I was aware and I was making the choices that I made the entire time. And that's how Dusty feels as well. It's like, yeah, I was being forced by this generation hopping entity that breeds on violence and death and wants me to do this, but I knew that I was doing it the whole time. I was doing it because I wanted to. And he can't forgive himself from that. And he should. Yeah. We need to be able to forgive ourselves sometimes. I think that's kind of what we see in the Ilanka story as well. Like the idea that she made this mistake and she's kind of unable to forgive herself for it.
Yeah.
And that is the same going on with Ilanka. Like that is the thing surrounding everything Ilanka's talking about, is the fact that she made this horrible mistake that almost got 3 people killed. That she let these people in. She trusted Julia Jane. She allowed herself. Like, I love that moment with Stanton where she's like, that's not me. I'm not like them. I'm smarter. And Stanton, for to her credit, doesn't be like, no, you're a fucking idiot. She says, yeah, of course you are. You are smarter. But desperation can take a smart person and make them vulnerable and to manipulation. And that's exactly what happens. You are smart, Ilanka. You're very smart. But even smart people can be hoodwinked by this kind of stuff. I think that I love what Stanton says. When she said, those ideas, they're like a cancer. They grab hold of you and they multiply. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, I appreciated the detail in the story. Like, first of all, what I want to say is I'm really mad at me and you, because in the very first Wicked Heart, we were like, who plays Nancy? Who is that? I don't recognize that person. And then when we're seeing the screaming ghost of Nancy in this episode, it's obviously the person who played Catherine. Like, it's just so transparently obvious to me that I don't know how I didn't see it in the first episode. I was just like, maybe because her eyes all bulgy and gross that I didn't see it, but it's just her. Like, it's just her.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I registered it and then I like forgot or something.
We had a whole conversation. We were like, who is it? Is it Natsuki? No, I think we maybe said maybe it's Catherine, but we were not committal.
I feel like I don't remember exactly how that conversation went, but I think I thought it was Catherine, but maybe I wasn't sure, that kind of thing.
She's got different hair. It's confusing.
Yeah, I'm completely face blind. Actually, I'm not. I think it's just that we don't see these characters for very long. And so now it's easy to recognize her because we've seen her several more times.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I also appreciated the detail of the Einstein chat between Led Zepp fan and Dance Pants 81. I did my freeze read the chat thing, and it is like they typed out a full real conversation between these two people. I like this part. they're talking first. They start talking about how their moms always want to talk during dinner, and then they talk about their grades, and they talk about whether they should meet together to study. And then we get this where Dusty says, "That would be great. I could use the help. My grades have been suffering." And Nancy says, "Oh no, does your mom know? Is she mad?" And Dusty says, "You could say that. She can be really demanding. She always has me doing things I don't want to do."
That's perfect.
He can't help it.
I love it.
This is a detail. It's cool that they actually typed this chat out, even though it just flashes on screen for seconds.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great.
Also, his mom crawling on the ceiling. Like, I don't know why that's happening. Like, it's so, the mystery of what this like mystical smoke serial killer stuff is, it's completely unanswered, but who cares? What it does is it turns them into psychopathic serial killers and lets my mom, who's had a stroke, crawl on the ceiling. Sure, love it.
Yeah.
It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, I love that. I love the whole ending. I love the crawling on the ceiling. So it made me happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. All right. Anything else you want to say about Wicked Heart? I love the song at the end. The song, I think, is a song called Hazard by Richard Marx. It's a song about a woman who disappears and a man singing about how he's not the one that killed her.
That's great. I didn't know that. No, I don't think I have any other notes about the Wicked Heart. I think we hit all my notions about his character and what he's going through over the course of the episode and where we end up with him. Just, I guess, just to kind of nail it in, we have been having, I think, a somewhat more mature and nuanced sort of will they, won't they, with Kevin and Ilanka, where, in the book, it was almost obvious, like, okay, these two are going to end up together. It was cleaner. In many ways, the Kevin character in the book is very idealized and nearly flawless, actually. He's almost angelic, the story that he tells is essentially an angel. He's an angel who's too pure for this world is his character in the story. And this Kevin is much more relatable, human, a kid who I felt a connection to, honestly. And and Ilanka, for that matter. I mean, the Ilanka in the book is also flawed, but this Ilanka is just more. There's more dimensions. There's more. We get to explore more of her over a longer period of time. So I felt like this is just more of a human, multi-dimensional relationship between two people, where there's clearly a connection there. But if you'd asked me, last episode, is the season going to end with them together? I could have flipped a coin. I wasn't sure. But I believe it. I buy it, but I buy it in that way of like, yeah, this is the way real romances and relationships evolve. Is in this there's false starts, there's backtracking, but if that connection is real, then it gravitates the people toward each other.
Yeah, I like that, and I agree. I think this is a much better version of what we saw in the book.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about Sandra's departure with you a little bit. I really loved this scene. I think one thing that the show does structurally that I really appreciate is we go from that Natsuki and Amesh scene we talked about, where they're just like this mundane, heartbreaking realization that he is on death's door, and we cut from that to Sandra leaving, and it's something that really nails home this concept of none of this is fair. All of this sucks. And why is it Sandra and not any of the rest of them? There's no reason. Luck. Just not like it's just, that's just the way it is. That some people are lucky and some people aren't. And the fact that these people, like, I love that the show didn't even flirt with the idea of having anyone like super resentful and angry at Sandra for getting to be the one that gets to go home. They're always like so kind and happy for her. I mean, like, Ilanka had that one brief moment, but that was less about Sandra and more about her. And they're just so nice to her. And like, it's Sandra that's feeling this. It's Sandra. This like the lines in this moment are like, I don't know how to do this. I like, and I don't want to go. Like this person who feels so strongly and so connected with these people is now having to leave them behind. And there's this one moment where she talks to Amesh and he says, let me get one good look at you. And she says, I'll see you again. And we've just left the scene where Amesh is realizing that he's close to death, and you see a look on his face. And then the director does a rack focus to Natsuki behind him, who also comes to that same realization. And it's fucking heartbreaking, where you're just like, the show is screaming at you, no, you're not. You're never going to see him again because he's about to die. And it is so sad. It's so sad. But that's the thing, is like there's no reason for this stuff. There's no reason for why Sandra is the one going home and the others aren't. It's just the way it is. And I just love that the show continues to communicate this to us. That regardless of who it gets to be and who it can not get to be, all these people are here for each other. They're there. They're supporting each other. They're loving each other. It's a beautiful goodbye. I'm glad that everyone was there. Hell, there's 2 nurses in the background of the shot that I don't think we've ever seen in the entire show, but they're standing back there. We know that there are night nurses in this place, but we've really only seen Mark. So they're even there to say goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, that I know that was a great moment of goodbye. It's like, I mean, I don't know, this might be a bit of a stretch, but it sort of feels like we're saying goodbye to the show too. Maybe that's one level on which it's poignant, is we're saying goodbye to these characters. I know it's not literally the end of the show, it's not the end of the episode, but there's some level of poignancy to the idea of, I'm not going to see these characters again.
Yeah.
And I have become attached to them in much the way that Sandra is attached to them.
Yeah, and we're leaving them knowing that while we never will get to see it, we know what their fate is. Their fate has been decided already. And so, we're in the back of our car driving away, waving goodbye to them, knowing that we're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right. It's very sad.
Yeah.
But good for you, Sandra. You get to go live. Alanka should have walked up to her and said, earn this.
What are you going to say?
Let's talk about Rhett a little bit, Matt.
Okay.
I'll talk about this scene. Did you see this coming? I think probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, let me remember. So didn't she try to call him before and his number was disconnected?
Correct. Yep.
So I don't know if I saw the idea that she was going to somehow get through to him coming, but the idea that the statue was going to be fixed, I did see coming. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we get to see this guy, and we see immediately that he is not the version of him that we saw in her dream, her death dream. That version was kind of cold, unfeeling, uncaring, not interested in repairing the relationship with her. This version hears that she blames herself for everything that happened between them and says, yeah, she would, but it's not that simple. And he blames himself. By the way, that's just like another great example of growth from Alanka is
could have done better.
He says,
Shit, we could all do better.
I could have done better. And her response is so simply like, shit, we could all do better. Which again, this is television. This is, these characters so well. And she says that, and it means not just a good response to what he said in that moment. It means the world for her and her outlook on everything. And that she is still reeling and kind of beating herself up for the things that she's responsible with, but she's not. She's working through that as well. Like it just means so much to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great moment. The show doesn't spend much time on it. I actually kind of weirdly appreciated that the statue itself is such a small moment in the show. It's really it's the thing that the whole book and the whole show are building up toward, is finally the one moment of undeniable something meaningful, something magical, something, some sign of life after death. And but the show is not it's not that it's not concerned with this, it's just not about this really. It's saying, yes, this is this is beautiful, and this is, again, this is a kind of grace, but it's actually the connections between these living characters that are the real grace.
Yeah, it's not about like I think the way this scene is shot really accentuates what you're talking about here, because we get this moment where the statue, and as Alanka starts to realize what's going on here, we're locked on her. So the statue is in the foreground, but it is out of focus because the focal length is locked on Alanka. We are watching Alanka come to this realization. We don't care about the statue. The statue is the inciting event of what's causing this, but it is Alanka that we care about here. And what does this means to Alanka? Because what this means is connection. What this means is there's something else. There's something more. What this means is, as Kevin perfectly says at the very end of the episode, what this means is hope. What this means is hope, and that's how it matters. Like that there's literally an afterlife. Whatever. It is representative of the hope that Alanka feels, that there's something else, there's something more, there's something more powerful than the things that we see. And this is what causes her, by the way, to change her mind about leaving, because at this point she is packing up to leave. She is leaving. She's going to go home with Tim. She's embarrassed and ashamed of what she did and how she was hoodwinked, and she just wants to leave and go home. And it is this moment that changes her mind. Not only just because she has to tell everyone else about the statue, but also she realizes how important this connection and these people and this experience is. And so she stays. And then we get that wonderful moment in the Midnight Club as she's telling them all the story of the statue, and we slowly pull away. Not only do we pull away from the table, but we also, like, I don't know what the term is, but they change the focus so much that everything slowly blurs as we're leaving them behind. I think that's just a really beautiful moment too. It's like, that's theirs. That's the experience of learning that there is something after death. We don't get to actually hear that conversation. We leave that for them. That's for them.
Yeah. Love that. I'm glad you remembered the "we go on" idea, because that's kind of a Flanaganism. It's also in Dr. Sleep, right? Yeah. Maybe trying to remember if the exact quote is in Midnight Mass. I don't recall, actually.
I mean, what you're talking about, the Aaron monologue at the end. It's just that I don't.
It's a similar exactly sentiment.
That. Yeah.
But it is that I don't remember if she says "we go on" verbatim.
Yeah, I don't think so, but no, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And this is, I think, part of the goal of the show ultimately, I think, is to strip away, is to build the show where, as you said, there's like 20 different types of magic we think happening at the same time, and slowly over time, each and every one of them is stripped away. No, that wasn't magic. No, that was Sandra messing around. That was just delusion brought on by desperation. No magic, no magic, no magic, no magic. And at the end of the day, all we're left with, if we ignore the old people, we're going to just ignore them right now. All that we're left with is there was one instance of a supernatural thing happening, and that is Anya screaming at them from beyond in only the way Anya could. And that's simple and beautiful, and we don't need definitive answers to what that is and what that means. It just means hope.
Yeah. I love the way that the scene with the statue is lit and everything, because it's just simple and pure, and there's no, it's not like it's a creepy whispery voice on the intercom. It's literally just a statue. It's not even glowing or anything. It's just a moment of an Alanka looking at it, knowing what it means, and it's great.
Crying. Yep. And again, the statue's not even in focus, because we don't care about the statue. We don't care about the leg. All we care about the people and their reaction to it. I do have a little bone to pick with Alanka, though. When Tim comes in, she gives him the pre-need, and then she wants to read him the poem that she wants read at her funeral. And she says, "I found this book in the library." And then she reaches into one of the boxes she was packing up to leave and pulls the book out. She was going to steal this book.
Yeah.
She was packing up to leave. She's going to take a book.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Alanka? can't just steal from the library.
I can do what I want. I'm Ilanka.
That is a beautiful poem, though. I had not.
When I die,
There was a part of me that was like, "Have I heard this poem before?" And I think I was just remembering the first time I watched the show because I had like convinced myself it was in the book, and I like flipped through the entire book and couldn't find
cry
it.
for your brother walking the street
But I think this
beside
is a
you.
beautiful, beautiful poem.
Yeah, I love it.
And when you need me, put your arms around someone and give them
All right.
what you need to get.
So I do want to talk to you briefly about the old man and the old woman, Matt.
Okay.
I want to know where your head's at with these two. So this is definitely we will talk definitively about what this means next week. But I want your guesses right now.
I mean, I gotta say the most obvious thing is we have this element from the book of Ilanka and Kevin actually being these, soulmates who have reincarnated over and over. And every time they reincarnate, it's like they're destined to almost be together because they find each other, but then some tragedy kills one of them or something like this. And this time, the tragedy is that they both have cancer and they're both going to die soon. And I think that we're doing something in that neighborhood. Are we doing the same exact thing? I don't know. But the idea that this old man and woman are the prior incarnation of Ilanka and Kevin feels about right. That's what I think.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, we can talk about what Mike says next week.
All right.
How did you feel about the? There's a stairwell down to the basement. It's fairly well hidden.
There's a stairwell down in the basement.
I mean, there kind of has to be like.
And when I came down,
Like,
I
you
wasn't
can't
even
just
surprised
have
to see
an area that can only be reached by an elevator because the elevator will break down. It's just funny. Yeah.
It's a very funny, like, look, writing is very hard sometimes. And there's moments where you're like, there clearly had to be because that we wanted Stanton in the scene, but if she came down via the elevator, everyone would notice the elevator coming down. So we need a way of her suddenly arriving without notice. And then we kind of just like throw a Band-Aid over it by having her just one off in the middle of that conversation. By the way, there was a staircase. I can see the note. I can see the studio note that's like, hey, how'd she get down there? Wouldn't they have seen the elevator? No, there's a staircase. Oh, well, does the audience know that? I don't know. They're probably not thinking about it. Well, someone will. You better. I'm thinking about it. Why don't you just throw a line in there?
It's gonna ruin the episode for so many people that we didn't mention the staircase.
Fairly well hidden, that staircase.
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of that room. I want to know where the staircase is. It's just well hidden.
That's why they had to say it. Is there's definitely not a staircase, in that set or whatever. But like that's like you can say whatever you want. Just like it's behind that wall. That wall is actually it just folds out. It's not really a wall. It's a door.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, this is the weird thing about like TV watching that we're like
none of this is real,
Yeah, like I don't care, right? Like it's just like I'm not the type of person that would like in the back of my mind being like, hey, where'd that staircase come from? But there's certainly people that would be doing that. And it's like, how do we create stories? Do we create stories trying to please every single solitary person out there? Are we trying to please the person that would be like, hey, how'd she get down there without them noticing? Because there's certainly a person that would watch the show and ask that very question. Obviously, I think that person happened to be an executive at the Netflix corporation. And that's why they had to add this. But, this is just conjecture. I don't actually know that. But it just stuck out to me because it's a funny line that just feels pasted in there that I didn't need. But I am the one that also spent the first 15 minutes of the show asking all these dumb questions on exactly how Julia Jane thought she was cured. So maybe I'm the problem, Matt.
It's hard to know, right? It's hard to know in these situations. We're talking about From, the TV show From, over on our bonus feed on Patreon. And like in that show, we would be having a conversation about how they get in the basement. Because like that's the kind of show that is, where you're trying to figure out the mystery based on all this minutia, and you expect them to have thought it through. And if somebody appears somewhere that they're not supposed to be, you're like, how'd they get there? This is important. Whereas in this type of show, it's just like it does. She's there somehow. Maybe she knew that Julia Jane was coming because she saw her from her window, and so she went down there before them.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. There's so many possible explanations.
There's so many. Yeah.
So, but because this show does kind of have a bit of a mystery element to it,
mm-hmm.
people are kind of asking those questions. So I don't think they're entirely wrong to be a little defensive in their in their script.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever. I just thought it's just funny. By the way, Dr. Georgina Stanton's shawl game just continues to be on point. Whoever was in charge of her wardrobe on the show, just great work. She's always like perpetually have these shawls that she's wrapping around ourselves in dramatic fashion. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I want to get some shawls for myself.
I don't know if you could pull it off, Matt, but there's only one way to find out.
That's true.
All right. Did you want to talk about the difference between exoteric and esoteric teaching and how we could possibly relate this to our show?
Education has two
I can try. I mean, I was thinking about
exoteric and esoteric.
This is a stretch. I'm doing a lot of stretching this week. But I was thinking we bring up this concept, right? And generally, if a concept is brought up explicitly in a script, we should think about it. Well, why is it being described to us?
Sure.
Why is this being highlighted to us, right? So this is when Aseso is saying in, spiritual teachings, there's an exoteric and an esoteric teaching. And the exoteric is sort of the obvious, superficial, outward manifestation of the thing, and the esoteric is the secret, inward, perhaps tacit manifestation of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about this, and I don't know if this is what was intended by this mention, but I was thinking about how, Stanton, as we've discussed, is the angel on Alanka's shoulder, and Julia Jane is the devil on her shoulder, and they're both kind of telling her stuff. They're both sort of making their arguments to her over the course of the whole show. And you could see these as being the two exoteric manifestations of these positions of like live for today, carpe diem, because we all have limited time on this earth, versus do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means killing people. And then there's also like the esoteric level, and it's like the esoteric level in a sense could be called like everything else, or it could even be called what it is exactly that the Midnight Club is doing. You could say, there's this the verbal debate is the exoteric, and then the esoteric is like, well, what are these kids doing? They're processing things through metaphor, through story. They're not actually talking about it; they're talking around it esoterically.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're coming to some conclusion, and they're undergoing profound personality changes based entirely on that process, not the verbal argument. And that was kind of just a way that I was able to make sense of that conversation.
I like that. I agree with you that I don't know if that is exactly what the writers were like intending for you to stretch to, but I do like that.
Yeah. Even if it wasn't, it draws your attention to the idea of like, this is actually just good storytelling, by the way, is like, you have characters who espouse positions, and they argue those positions, but then the story itself is the argument underneath that. The occurrences of the plot are the argument, not just the people talking.
Sure. Yeah. I agree completely. And I think that one thing that is true in this episode that I clocked is a lot of people are talking about stories Like, not just the fact that they're telling stories, but I think, we talked about at the beginning, Aseso says we need to come up with a really great story for where you've been. When Cherie says goodbye to Sandra, she says, whenever you talk about your time here, you make that story really good. We do have like the show is hitting these beats of how important good stories are to all of this. And so the idea of the esoteric is this kind of unknown power of underneath these stories within stories, or just the story itself. I really like this because you know how much I love stories about stories.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And stories about themselves. So I like that.
Me too.
That makes the whole scene worth it. I retract everything I've said about that scene.
Yay.
There is, this is actually a cool moment that I wanted to compliment the acting and the direction of the scene, because there's this moment in the scene. I don't even know if you noticed it, but it's when Aseso asks Julia Jane for the book, the Athena's diary, and there's this really interesting beat where Julia Jane leans forward to hold out the diary for her, and Aseso, Katie Parker, like pauses and gets this very brief like look of annoyance on her face, and then like leans over more to take the diary out of her hand. And it's like, it's the type of thing where you just like, I noticed it and I was like just thinking like, what is that? And what it is ultimately, in my estimation, is character work, right? Like, we don't know who this Aseso person is. We've had one story about them. We know her history, but like as a person, who is she? What type of person is she? And the scene is basically teaching us that. And one of the ways it's teaching us that is what she says. And another way it's teaching us that is in her actions. She asks for this book, and in her mind, she expected Julia Jane to pick up this book and reach as far over as she could so that me, Aseso, would not have to do any work to take this book from you. But Julia just kind of holds it up. And so she has to lean, and this is good character work. I think this is Katie Parker understanding her character very well, where she just gets this brief moment of annoyance, this brief, very brief pause. Most people that are listening to this probably didn't even notice this, but it's there. Go back and watch it. And then she has to lean forward, and she's just like this brief moment of like, ugh. Why? Because she thinks she's awesome and knows all the secrets of the universe, and everyone else should bow down before her because she's a crazy cult leader. That's why. It's perfect.
I love it. Perfect. Yeah.
It's a blink and you miss it thing. Go back and watch it, folks, if you haven't. It's there. I promise you. I also really like this beat that we learned that Julia's been arrested 3 times in the past few years. So remember when Julia Jane was like, we've tried to respect their space and stay away from it. It's like, no, you haven't. You've been arrested 3 times. You liar.
And now you've tried to murder people, and you're probably going to jail if they find you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep, I think they are going to find her. I don't think she's getting far. That's my opinion.
Well, we'll have to find out next week.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be fun that you don't know like what is revealed and what isn't revealed. It could be that, it could not. Yeah,
true.
I also don't actually care about this whatsoever. I'm going to make this comment. I'm putting a caveat that I don't care, but I did find it pretty funny that there are like police cars and ambulances all over the house, and everyone else just slept through it and have no idea what happened the night before.
Yeah. I feel like there'd be way more cops than that for an almost triple homicide. But
yeah. And they probably would have wanted to interview every single person in the house. But like, I think the reason for it, stupid joking, complaining aside, is because the show and Stanton want Alanka to tell this to her friends.
Yeah.
They want her to have this moment of admitting her error, admitting her mistake.
Right.
They want the show wants that to happen. That's an important moment for Alanka, for sure.
I also, just to kind of do the legwork of the show, like I think that Stanton is motivated to keep things quiet,
sure,
for her own esoteric reasons. So, like, she could be giving the cops a story where she's just like, yeah, these people broke into my house again, and trying to do their rituals and they poison themselves, and not mention Julie Jane, not mention that this is sort of like a evil person who is trying to kill them, and just kind of minimize it because she doesn't really want to like make a huge incident out of this.
Sure.
It's just, I don't know. Just a thought.
I think a huge incident is inevitable when you have 3 people near death. Like, and thank goodness they didn't die. If they had died, game over. That hospice is probably getting shut down.
Right.
Yeah, good stuff. So what is your final guess? We'll talk about it next week, but Stanton, bald, hourglass symbol on the back of her neck. What's going on? What's going on with her?
I mean, I like the idea that she's someone who used to be a cultist and successfully did this ritual.
Okay.
And is like now immortal and like and like regrets it. Is that a prediction? Not really. It was just an idea that came to me.
Okay.
I think the idea that she used to be an Aseso cultist, maybe literally like someone who knew Aseso, or one of her direct co-cultists. We go back to that scene where we saw them in the basement. Like maybe one of those is her. Somehow maybe she survived the poisoning. I don't know.
Sure.
And she's now wants to live down her mistakes. I think that's more kind of simple and plausible.
So
theory.
you think she's the Georgina Stanton we've seen so far and the things she said, do you think that's legitimately her? And there's not like, I guess, do you think she's bad? Do you think
No.
like the show leaves it open to there's something, she's bad and evil actually?
I don't think she's actually bad. I think we are meant to wonder about her, but I don't think she is.
Okay, cool. Well, that's another thing we will have answered definitively for you next week.
All right.
All right. Well, how you feeling? It's over. It's all over.
I'm good. I'm glad we get an episode to talk about the show holistically, because we went down into the weeds a lot this episode, which is great. But the through lines, I think we could definitely stand to revisit a bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
I agree. This was 10 episodes. This was 10 hours of story. There's a lot here. There's a lot of story within story. There's a lot of esoteric stuff to talk about here. So I this is why we do these episodes, these follow-up episodes next. But I think I hit everything I wanted to hit on this one.
Yeah, me too.
I keep feeling the need to say this thing that I've been running in my head for the past few weeks. And that thing is like directly addressing the people who clearly have decided not to follow us on this journey. Cause we see our download numbers and we see that they've dipped a little bit since we started covering the Midnight Club, unfortunately. And I just want to like shake these people and be like, you need to go back and watch the show and give it another shot, because it is actually very good. Is it my favorite Flanagan thing? No. And we'll talk a little bit more next week about maybe where it stands comparatively, but I want these people to give it another shot. And I realize saying this now in this episode is like, this is what I feel, because I feel like, how do I contact these people? How do I make them listen? Because they're not listening right now. But I want people to give the show another shot. I do, because I was definitely much more negative on it in my quick binge 10 episode run through before we sat down to really talk about it. But there's a lot that's really, really good here.
Yeah. We'll just have to randomly insert that into all future episodes.
I think, I'm just going to definitely, I think people are going to rejoin us for Usher. And so maybe I'll just stick it there. And so the rest of you all have to listen to this again. Sorry.
Sounds good.
You earned it. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No.
I guess one thing we didn't talk about in The Witch that I maybe wanted to mention was just this idea of if only, that Alanka begins the first part of this revisiting of the story. this idea that one of the most useless and helpless statements in the world is if only this didn't happen to me, that the universe is not moved at all by if only, because the answer is always, but it is. This is, I think, our first sign that before we even get into the detail of the story, that Alanka is fundamentally changed by what happened and is at a level of acceptance.
Yeah. It's related to the if only people would just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point, that this is a thematic shift for her. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't. I do want to make sure we hit the beat of how, and this is kind of a beat that we hit in the Anya story, but the idea that she can't finish her own story because it's too sad for her, and so her friends pick up that mantle and finish it for her until she can get to a point where she gets it across the finish line. I think is very powerful and moving. Once again, this idea that she's talking.
Scotty opened her eyes.
The person who plays her mom in the story is the person who played her mom in the A plot as well, and Alanka has lost her mom, and so part of what she's doing is recognizing that, especially armed with the knowledge of the fixed statue, that maybe I will be joining my mother who's waiting for me, dancing with the fireflies. It's very, very beautiful, very beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
It's comforting. It's comforting, like that. I mean, like you and I have talked about our feeling of death, and it terrifies me. The idea of the unknowableness, the uncertainty of it, the fear of there being nothing, or the fear of there being something awful, keeps me up at night sometimes. And just like the simple comforting idea of like, I don't have a definitive answer for you. I don't know what it's going to be, but that this isn't the end. Comforting.
Yeah.
Wanting to believe this kind of nebulous, this Mike Flanagan idea that we've seen again and again and again throughout all the stuff, that like, I don't have answers for what happens after you die. Nobody does. And I would not presume to give you a definitive answer, but I believe, and through the worlds I have constructed, it is something.
Yeah.
And take comfort in that.
And it offers a few different possibilities where, and says, these are some things that people have believed and found comfort in, and here they are for you to consider.
Yeah.
And that does bring comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's Midnight Mass. Midnight
Club.
No, Midnight Club. Shit. I did that very few times throughout the course of this show. I just want to give myself credit for that. That's like one of just a handful.
Yeah.
I figured I would have done it more.
Yeah, me too. I think we did pretty good not saying it.
Yeah. All right. As we said, next week will be our overview episode. We will talk about the Mike Flanagan Tumblr post for season 2, what that could have been, what we think about it. And then we'll spend some time talking about the show as a whole. And of course, we do have your mailbag questions that we'll be reading. I can't remind you right now to send those in, because by the time you're listening to this, you will have already recorded those. So that's a waste of effort. But thanks for sending in those great questions, everyone.
Yep.
Speaking of questions, what was the last discussion question we have to talk about here, Matt?
The last question is, what are your favorite angel versus devil, shoulder angel and shoulder devil scenes? Mm-hmm. Really fun answers this week. Isabel Darling, 21, says, my favorite devil versus angel scene is Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. The comedic timing of the discussions leaving the other characters completely confused is perfect. But when Yzma disses Kronk's Spanish puffs, both the devil and angel have Kronk's back. Just a perfect movie overall. Yes. I haven't watched this movie in a long time. I should show it to my kids. I think they've probably seen it, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
I showed it to my son. He loved it. This is when we asked this question, this was the scene I was thinking of, to be honest with you, Matt, because I think about all the time of when the devil goes, okay, but look what I can do. And he does like a handstand.
Yeah.
And then Kronk turns to the angel and the angel goes, no, he's got a point.
He's got a point. It's fantastic.
Great. The other one I was thinking of was this next one from DJ Nedelko, who says there's an old Family Guy bit where Peter gets fired and he debates telling Lois. The devil appears on his shoulder and tells him it's okay to lie to women. They're not people like us. Peter then looks at his opposite shoulder, but no one's there. Hey, where's the other guy? Hard cut to the angel stuck in traffic. The same bit is essentially repeated, but on the angel's shoulder next time, and it works just as well. Yeah, I remember this. This is very early Family Guy. That's a funny bit. I liked it.
Awesome. Aqua Lungfish says, I'm going to admit outright, I didn't think up this one myself, but when I saw it talked about this way, I latched on to the interpretation. The modern Battlestar Galactica reboot has a character, Baltar, who routinely interacts with a character only he can see. Said imaginary character often gives him advice, usually seemingly bad advice, but it often ends up helping in a roundabout way. Sometime later in the show, the roles reverse, and the physical version of that character sees an imaginary version of Baltar filling a similar role. These two imaginary people end up coming together to act as a sort of overall angel/devil for the show as a whole. It's a bit messy, but an interesting take on the trope. That sounds really cool. I'm vaguely aware of this from like the 2 episodes of that show that I watched, but it sounds like they really took it in a fun direction.
Still mad at you about this, by the way.
I know, I'm sorry.
Darren Longbeard says Eminem's 1999 album, The Slim Shady LP, has a great song, Guilty Conscience. It tells 3 stories of increasingly more graphic events, with each main character having their decision influenced by Dr. Dre playing the angel and Slim Shady playing the devil. As the song progresses, Slim and Dre start targeting each other directly, very much so to the detriment of everyone else, especially Grady's adulterous wife. Warning, though, if you've never listened to older Eminem song, his older albums and lyrics don't really translate to a modern audience, so proceed with caution, I guess. That is extremely true, although I think you could probably make similar arguments about his more modern songs as well. But I remember I listened the fuck out of this album. This is one of the first albums that I did not buy, but I had my sister's boyfriend buy for me because it had the parent advisory warning on it and they wouldn't sell it to me.
You were such a bad kid, Scott.
I know. I actually remember I was listening to it stupidly on my dad's stereo system in our living room, like blasting it. And I remember hearing the driveway, the garage door open, and my parents were coming home, and I like sprinted to the stereo to turn it off as fast as possible. I can't remember if I got away with it or not. The fact that I don't remember it means I probably did, because I feel like I would remember if I was got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's amazing. Great story.
Yeah,
we've been learning so much about you. Baby King, you dig your Sam says, the good Gollum, bad Gollum conflict in Lord of the Rings is fresh in my mind from a recent rewatching. However, I'm going to mention something that none of you have heard of. Jodie, which is Sam's sister, wrote a 1-act play in college about a girl contemplating suicide. Instead of the devil and the angel on her shoulder, she had comedy and tragedy. It was great. Been a long time since I read it, but that was truly the first thing that came to mind. That sounds really cool.
That's a fun idea. I like that.
Yeah. All right. The remaining answers real quick. We've got Steve Living Room CO says the Animal House scene with the passed out girl and the devil and angel debate, which is, according to Steve, dated and disgusting. It's been, I think I saw this movie so long ago. I don't even really remember these scenes. I don't remember there being an angel.
I don't remember that scene at all.
Yeah.
But I believe it was dated and not great, because that's Animal House. Yeah.
Busy Dad 82 says Star Wars with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Palpatine as the angel and the devil on Anakin's shoulders.
I like that.
Turbulent Ad 5257 says in South Park, the Mr. Mackey episode where both the good and the bad angels tell him to drink beer. I don't remember this either, but I haven't watched that much South Park. Cat Shuts Up Reads says Supernatural seasons 5 and earlier with Sam/Dean representing the evil/angelic forces resisting both sides. And finally, House of 7 Paws says Woody Allen's Play It Again, Sam, with Humphrey Bogart as the guardian angel and his ex-wife as the voice of guilt. Cool.
I don't think I've ever seen that Woody Allen film.
Me neither.
Yeah, I have not. It's a Diane Keaton one. Diane Keaton was in a lot of these. Love her.
Yeah.
Very conflicted about Mr. Woody Allen.
Yeah.
I like so much of his movies, but it's
Yeah.
the eternal problem
Yeah.
of modern art enjoying.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you seen that new Michael Jackson film yet?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
It's actually not on the list, surprisingly.
No complicated feelings about that at all.
Nope.
All right. That's going to do it for us. We do not have a question for next time. By the time we would read this question, we will be on Edgar Allan Poe. So I guess we can have like a non-official question of just what's your favorite Poe short story? Or story in general. Sure.
Non-official.
Non-official.
Yeah.
Maybe won't read them on the show, but just to get everyone in the Poe mindset. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
But once again, next week will be our overview episode, taking one last look at Mike Flanagan and Leah Fong's The Midnight Club, including, of course, what would have happened in season 2 had there been one.
That'll be a fun segment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Remember, you can reach us via email at flanaganswakepod@gmail.com, over on X at flanaganswake19, and on the subreddit at reddit.com/r/doofmedia. Don't forget, every episode can be found in YouTube and Spotify video formats. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, leave us a comment and let us know what you think.
Yes. And please also head on over to our merch store. That's doofmedia.myshopify.com. I'll remind you folks, once again, we are honoring our wonderful artist Eliza and her life by raising some money from a charity that was very important to her called Camp Can Do. So we have all her artwork there. If you just head to doofmedia.myshopify.com and look for Eliza's artwork, that section, it's all there. The profits from everything sold there will go directly to Camp Can Do. You guys have really been knocking us out of the park so far. It's been awesome. We really appreciate it. I'm sure they're going to really appreciate it too. So please keep it going. There's lots of great stuff there. Got this mug. This is Nellie's in the Red Room mug right here. I love that. Drawing. It's awesome.
So cool.
So yeah, please do that. We thank you for those that have done it so far. Y'all are awesome. So once again, doofmedia.myshopify.com. And the link to the Eliza section will also be in the show notes right here.
That's right. If you like Flanagan's Wake and you want to support us, then please consider heading over to patreon.com/doofmedia and throwing some support our way. We have a bunch of cool bonus features over there, including book club with the ability to vote on what books we cover, our monthly Patreon exclusive podcast covering the TV show From, and my ongoing serialized novel, The Knot.
Yeah.
Which I should mention, the index for that is theknot.doofmedia.com, and you can see everything.
And I might have something new that will be announced there very shortly as well. So make sure you don't miss that announcement by checking us out there.
Awesome.
But if you don't want to go to Patreon, don't want to deal with that, don't want to support us, don't want to do any of that, that's okay. You can support us in other ways. You can share the podcast. As we said, we are moving into the fall of the House of Usher. Very fun show that I am very much looking forward to getting into. And we don't want anyone to miss it. So tell your friends, share the podcast, and also make sure you leave us those rating and reviews on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever. Leave those. They really do help. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, folks. All that we have left is the overview, and that'll happen right here next week. Until then, enjoy Dancing with the Fireflies, Mr. Flanagan.
He makes it so easy.
Because he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
With the fireflies.
He's
in a clearing at the end of the path.
Matt, it's too soon for that.
Okay.
Too soon, sorry.